Welcome to Thorim. Okay, so we start this fight by dispatching the initial mobs. The fight then splits between the corridor and the arena. The arena sees the introduction of 4 mobs: the Dark Rune Warbringer, Invoker, Champion and Commoner. The Warbringer is a basic melee mob that has an aura of celerity that increases melee and spell haste by 20%. The Invoker has a few abilities, the most important one being the ability to heal, Runic Mending, which you need to stop by focusing on him and taking him down. Also casts a lightning spell and a lightning shield. The lightning shield actually protects for 120,000 damage, so you need to be careful to perhaps interrupt that but burn them down as quick as you can. The champion is the more dangerous one of the 4. It's got a charge ability which does basically normal damage plus 75 and stuns the opponent for 2 seconds. Mortal Strike, but most importantly Whirlwind, which is why you'll find that champions are tanked outside of the central group. The central group being the arena team that's standing in the centre circle, and they're standing in there for a reason which I'll explain later. So take the champion out to one side and tank him there. He'll charge back into the centre occasionally, but grab him, take him out, preferably with a Death Knight who can just pull him out of the centre, so that when he whirlwinds he only affects your tank, and that's it. As for the commoners, don't worry about those because the AoE that's going on will burn them down by default. Okay, so aside from the team split between the corridor team and the arena team will see DPS split, so you get one set of DPS on the Evoker and one set of DPS on the Champion. We tend to use 2 rogue AoEers who will be AoEing whilst doing DPS on the Evoker, which takes care of the Warbringers and the Commoners at the same time. Just to quickly go through Thorim's abilities at this time, there's no point doing damage to him. His Sheath of Lightning he's got protects him from 99% of all damage. He can do Charge Orb, which is one of the orbs around the edge of the arena. He charges it with electricity, and then they find a random target within 35 yards and start zapping them with a lightning shock for 3000 nature damage every second. It is 35 yards range, so put your arena team in the centre of the room because they're out of range and won't be hit by it. His other ability, which is really annoying, is Storm Hammer. It does about 2500 damage to an enemy, and you'll see his hammer come flying down from where he stands to somebody in the room. It knocks them down and stuns them for 2 seconds, but causes something called Deafening Thunder to that enemy and any enemy nearby, which really just increases the amount of time it takes you to do spells, which when you're trying to heal and when you're trying to take down the champion, because generally you don't have melee on the champion because of his whirlwind ability, it increases the amount of time it takes you to get them down. With the champions, you only really want one champion up at any point in time. Little tips are for, in the same way your tank is standing at the centre of the team, you might want a couple of ranged DPSs standing out the centre as well, dodging the orb lightning when they're affected by it, but this also means they get less time that they're affected by the Deafening Thunder, which means they can DPS the champion down pretty quickly. Little tips here and there, you'll probably come up with your own, but make sure the champions and the invokers go down toot sweet so that your arena team doesn't wipe. Okay, as for the corridor team, you should have a couple of healers in there, a couple of CC, a tank and some DPS. Make sure you've got your DPS balance between your arena and your corridor team, so that both sides go down as easily as can be. As you're working your way through the corridor, you're going to get 2 packs of 3 trash. CC left and right, take out the middle target, and take out the 2 CC before moving to the next. This means you only need to take 1 tank and don't really have to worry about it. Watch out for the Runic Colossus, which is the first of the 2 mini-bosses at the end. He'll be firing either with his left or right arm, and attack that you need to dodge by moving either left or right. Bear in mind that as you get closer to the Runic Colossus, obviously your reaction time needs to increase because the distance between you is decreased, and obviously his spell's going to hit you quicker. When you take on the Colossus, take him to one side, everyone get up close, turn him away from the team. He's got a charge ability, so if everyone's close, that's nullified. He's got a runic barrier, which basically decreases the damage taken by 50% and inflicts some arcane damage to attackers, but really nothing to worry about. And a smash ability, which is where you've turned him away from the rest of the raid, because it hits for about 40k damage, physical damage, in a 10-yard cone in front of the caster. After the Runic Colossus is dead, get your 2 CCers next to the door that's going to open just before he dies. Immediate CC the 2 mobs that are there. Get your tank to then run through, pick up the next 2 mobs that are on the stairs and take them with him to get to the top, where he'll meet the second mini-boss called the Ancient Rune Giant. The Ancient Rune Giant's got a few abilities, including Stomp for physical damage, Runic Fortification, which looks as though it boosts all nearby adds that you've taken with you. Don't worry about that, just keep focusing on the mini-boss. and rune detonation, which immobilizes a target with a ward, and basically after 4 seconds that target will explode, or rather the ward will explode, inflicting about 13k damage. So if you've got a friend that's got it on them, move out the way until they explode, then you can move back to place. So burn down this second guy. You can either at this point, depending on how your arena team is doing, choose to burn down the rest of the mobs that are there before running around at the top, jumping off the edge and joining them, or just rooting them in place, running around the edge, jumping off the top, joining them, and then catching up with those ads as they run back round the bottom through the door. Entirely up to you. Just make sure you take down the evokers first when they come through the door, because they'll be healing all over the place and you need to stop that. As you're running around across the top, you've got 2 big circles on the floor. Make sure you avoid them, otherwise you'll be caught in them. And make sure your team jumps off the top at the same time, because there's a timer that starts the actual boss event. He jumps down from the top to the bottom, and when your team reaches the end, reaches him. And if you get some of your team left behind, an electric barrier will appear at the top that nobody can jump through, because they'll die, and you're pretty much stuck at that point. So jump off more or less within a few seconds of each other, and then you're into the second and last phase of the fight. Okay, so if you've got this far, congratulations, you've done the hardest part of the fight. There's a lot to remember in this fight, hence why this video has been a bit rushed. But now you're on the last part of the boss, and he's got 3 main abilities. First of all, chain lightning. As with all chain lightning, each successive hit hits and damages the target by an extra 50% of damage, so make sure you're standing as far apart from each other as you can. Utilise all around the room and park him in the middle so you can use all of the room. Secondly, he's got something called lightning charge. You'll see a stream of lightning bolts get sucked in from an orb in the outer edge to him. When those have finished being sucked in, he'll fire out a lightning charge to that edge, and anybody who's standing on that side of the room is going to get hit for quite a lot of damage, about 20k. So move out of the way and move back once he's fired the lightning strike back out. When this actually happens, Thorim's melee damage and attack speed increases by 15%, and nature damage dealt increases by 10%. So obviously as you go through the fight, his ability to do more damage increases. His last ability, which is more on the melee side of things, is called Unbalancing Strike. It inflicts 200% weapon damage and leaves the target unbalanced, reducing the tank's defense skill by 200 for 15 seconds. Obviously you don't want that, so you need to have an off tank ready and keep flipping the boss between the 2 tanks whenever the Unbalancing Strike occurs. Okay, on normal mode that's it. As I say, there's a lot to remember. Make sure you keep moving. You don't want to get to this stage after finally killing both the corridor and arena sides of this fight, only to find that you're staying too close together and get wiped out by chain lightning, because quite frankly that's a bit embarrassing. Okay, so good luck with the rest of the fight. Have fun.
Stay your arms. I